When it comes to wildfire in California, there's a lot to go over. The August complex is now officially the largest wildfire in the history of California. The creek and bear fires continue to grow, and the air quality yesterday was about as bad as I've seen it in the 25 years I've lived in California. So, the first thing I want to talk about is that air quality. And based on the satellite imagery here, you can see there is still a thick layer of smoke covering a large portion of the state. If we go to the air quality map, you can see we have very unhealthy to hazardous air over both the Creek Fire and August complex. And then for the majority of Northern California, we have that unhealthy to moderate air, and that's really continuing throughout really the entire state here. There is some good news in the forecast though, as those very unhealthy to hazardous areas should be going away in the next 24 hours, and then that unhealthy air just spreads throughout the state. Obviously, that's not good, but if we gradually get better, things should be looking up in the next few days. So one interesting thing to look at here is why the air quality got so bad in the first place, because honestly, some of the photos coming out of San Francisco, Bay Area, and the Valley yesterday, it didn't even look like Earth. It looked like something you'd see on Mars. And the reason for that really comes back to the bear fire up here. It grew about 100,000 acres in 24 hours, and then the northerly upper winds just basically pushed that smoke right over the rest of the state. And the winds were stronger up here, so it pushed the smoke in, and then the smoke just settled. So that's why we had all those crazy images that were just covering social media yesterday. And unfortunately, that northerly upper atmosphere wind is going to continue throughout the day today, so that'll continue to push smoke into the Bay Area and the Valley. Now, the first fire I want to talk about here is the Creek Fire. So if we go and look at this on this map, this shows where the hotspots and the fire perimeter are with this fire. And something I notice is it didn't expand as far south as we were seeing in previous days. And a big reason for that was the wind shift. It used to be blowing from the east to the west, and that was pushing this fire down into Auberry. And then yesterday it switched to almost a southwest direction. And you can see that with those winds, that's where the majority of this fire grew. So I know the priority is still now this western and southern edge of this fire. So CAL FIRE is working hard to get some lines around this. If we go into the actual numbers for this fire, we're now up to 166,000 acres, still 0% containment. So that's not what we want to see, but again, there's just very dry, dead fuels in this area. It's been hot, it's been windy. The firefight in this area has been especially bad, and it's also been bad because of that air quality. I heard one CAL FIRE representative say that it's hard to get helicopters and airplanes in here because there's just so much smoke. And actually, one other interesting thing to point out here, if you look closely, you can actually see this upper layer of smoke moving south while the lower layer of smoke moves north. So that's interesting to see the wind shear in the atmosphere. Back to the numbers though. When it comes to evacuation orders, there's too many for me to say, so I'll put the link in the description. We're now officially up to 360 structures destroyed. So if you or any of your friends or family have been affected by this fire, my thoughts and prayers go out to you. We have almost 1,000 personnel on this fire with 14 crews, 9 helicopters, 84 engines, 38 dozers, and 32 water tenders. Now earlier I mentioned the reason this fire is burning so hot and why there's really so much smoke is because of the dead fuels in the area. And if we look at this tree mortality viewer, there's Shaver Lake, there's Auberry, and if we turn on tree mortality, you can see one CAL FIRE representative said 80 to 90% of the trees in this area have been killed by drought and bark beetles in the last few years. So there's just a ton of dead dry fuel that is really just feeding fire growth. Now if we get to the weather forecast for Auberry, you can see we no longer have that red flag warning, so that is terrific news. We had some really rapid fire growth associated with that red flag warning, so it's great to see that's gone. One thing you don't want to see though is this rise in temperatures. It's going 87 to 90 by Sunday. If we actually dig into it, I would say the major area concerned with this forecast is probably going to be the afternoon hours today as we have warm temperatures. It's going to be decently windy, and then the humidities are staying relatively low. The other thing that is concerning with this forecast is the overnight humidities are staying extremely low. In the overnight hours, that's typically when firefighters can get some containment on fires as humidity goes up to 80 or 90% and the fire behavior calms down. So, with this low overnight humidity, that's going to make firefighting especially difficult. And then looking at the forecast for tomorrow, you can see that moisture does tick up a little bit, so that is at least encouraging with this forecast. Now, the next fire I want to talk about is the Bear Fire. And this has officially combined with the North Complex. So if you're seeing some sources saying Bear Fire, some North Complex, just know it is now officially the same thing. And really, there's two areas that are interesting with this fire. We have this southern edge pushing into Lake Oroville. I know that is the major priority for CAL FIRE right now, as they're trying to get some dozer lines in down here to really protect these communities. The other interesting area with this one is on the northern edge, as it's actually working into where the campfire previously burned. So I heard CAL FIRE saying they're actually able to reuse some of the dozer lines that they previously had built for the campfire. So if we go into the numbers for this one, you can see we got 1,300 personnel on this fire. I know more people are moving to this one every single day. The size is now 250,000 acres, and we have 24% containment. Looking at the forecast for this area, again, great we no longer have the red flag. Good thing that the winds aren't going to be as strong, so we won't see those 100,000 acre per day numbers that we were seeing in the past. But you can see the temperatures are still going up, 89 to 92 on Saturday. If we look at the humidities for here, you can see the overnight hours are a little bit better, but again, the afternoon hours today are going to be tricky, as it'll be almost 90 degrees, pretty gusty winds, and then that low relative humidity. And then similar story for tomorrow. We're going to get up into the 90s. You get that afternoon wind tick and then low relative humidity. Now, the last fire I want to talk about is the August Complex, which is now officially the largest wildfire in the history of California. So if we zoom in here, you can see this one just has a ton of areas that are still actively burning, especially this western edge. That was back when we had those easterly winds. It really expanded this western edge, and we were talking about that yesterday. I know the priorities with this fire are that western and southern edge, as they're trying to get some good lines in and gain some containment on this fire. So looking at the numbers for this one, it is now at 470,000 acres. There are 1,100 personnel on this, and we're now at about 24% containment. That number is just ridiculous, though. The 470,000 acres officially puts the August Complex as the largest wildfire in the history of California. It's also interesting just to look through the rest of this list. You see these little red asterisks here that signifies fires that are still actively burning. And something that probably stands out to you, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fires actively burning in the top 20 largest California wildfires in history. You can see the SCU and LNU are at 3 and 4. Luckily, those have calmed down in the last week and a half. And then the North Complex, which is still actively increasing. It's going to be important to keep our eye on that one. And then the Creek Fire down here, which is still growing day by day. So I'm going to be making these updates every single day as these fires progress. And as always, thank you to CAL FIRE for all the amazing work you do. And thank you to the San Jose State Fire Weather Research Lab. Everything I know about wildfire is due to my work with the Fire Lab. So thank you to them and especially Dr. Craig Clements. Good luck to everyone who has been affected by these fires, and thanks for watching.